Hello, and welcome back to the Fae Banner Review, where we talk about banners right before Choose Your Legends. Only in this case it's not a very good one. Today, we have a brand new emblem banner featuring Leif, who is the last mainline emblem. The last one not named Alir, but I could do without another one for a long while. And as per tradition, I will be using this coveted small line graph that may or may not be small at the end of the day to rank the brand new emblem banner, as well as the circle graph that may or may not be a circle at the end of the day alongside it. Today's rankings will be based on how many banners are left before Choose Your Legends, and if you could hit that like and subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. The latest and definitely not greatest emblem this time around is none other than Leif. I thought they were just going to hold on to him until end of service, so it's nice to see that isn't the case. But did waiting all this time make up for it in power level? Well, if it's lore accurate, then probably not. Let's see. Leif comes with Sage Lord's Axe, which is a slaying distant counter axe with built-in bulwark. It grants the standard combat stuff every unit gets, aka 25 true damage, 15 true damage reduction, etc. It grants himself and any ally within 3 rows and columns spectrum stats, full tempo, 1-2 special jumps, and inflicts 1-2 scowls on the foe before their first attack based on whether they have a triangle advantage, and Leif can use a light brand style. Light brand style allows Leif to attack from 2 spaces away, makes it easier to make a follow-up attack by 10 speed, and grants adaptive damage once per turn. He also comes with a PRF special in Quadruple Hit, which is a 5 cooldown special that boosts his damage by his entire speed stat. It grants Truly Incited and Null Follow-Up at the start of the phase to himself and any ally within 2 spaces. It grants 40% special damage reduction. Dual Phase Brave. It grants a triangle advantage against every color type twice per turn or any number of times against units that are more than 3 spaces away, and it neutralizes boost values from triangle adept advantages and disadvantages. How can you use this? There's no potent follow 100%. I don't remember the last time a unit didn't have that, but joking aside, Leif seems pretty cool. He's another Omni-Tank option that can have a weapon triangle advantage in most relevant combats. Granted, it only works twice per enemy phase at minimum, but he shouldn't need it for every combat. Well, at least against AI opponents, the ones that deal the most damage first should be the ones that are affected the most. The added scowl effect also makes it easier to deal with them, especially since it's 2 scowl jumps, which is a fair bit. He also gives that out to allies alongside tempo, no follow-up, and truly incited, although it's more often going to be 1 scowl instead of 2 given the condition. Still, between that and his 2-space style, he should function well enough as a unit, but besides that, I'm not really seeing anything here that makes me go wowie zowie. The rest of his kit is pretty standard, although the innate bulwark and dual phase brave is nice to have for a frontline role. To me, that means his weapon triangle gimmick has to carry a lot more, and while it is interesting, I don't think it's better than what recent additions do. We recently got Emblem Roy and Cheer Byleth, both of which are arguably better at the job. Roy has once per combat special Miracle, Reflex, and Imbue, which makes him a lot more difficult to take down. Leif having Brave is really nice at least, but Reflex can definitely make up for the damage. Cheer Byleth, on the other hand, has a 3-space style and can Vantage Sweep, although it does make her more prone to Reflex. Even then, she has so many effects baked into her weapon and special that she ends up being obnoxious to deal with. Leif also has a way less damage reduction compared to Byleth, which probably can't be made up with a weapon triangle advantage. I still like what Leif does, and I wouldn't even go as far as saying he's bad. He seems decent enough for the role he's in, but he doesn't exactly stand out to me either. That makes it harder to recommend him, especially since the latter is still on an active banner, but you could definitely do worse than this. I mean, realistically, how bad can a unit be with a triangle adept gimmick, brave hits, and a style? Surprisingly pretty bad. Just go ask Brave Balder. I'm sure he's fine, and if he isn't, then you could just use his ring instead. And speaking of which, Leif also comes with a bunch of inheritable skills. I'm covering the fodder first. It includes Counter Dull, Thunder Spectre, and a brand new A skill in Arm Shield 4, which grants 10 attack speed and defense during combat, penalty neutralization, true damage and true damage reduction based on whether they have a triangle advantage, and inflicts guard on the foe. A skill with a condition in 2026? The answer may surprise you. It's another stat stick skill with penalty neutralization and a higher ceiling for true damage and true damage reduction, which is cool. However, there's a rise above shaped elephant in the room that should be addressed. Why would you run this over Rise Above 4? Honestly, it's debatable if Leif even wants this skill over Rise Above. You lose some true damage and true damage reduction as well as penalty neutralization, but you're also getting 7 HP, 2 more attack and speed, and 12 more res out of it, which is a lot. I think if Arm Shield was a lot more consistent, it'd be worth considering more. Although the nice thing is that it isn't locked to infantry and cavalry. Any physical red, blue, and green unit can use it. So if they fit into a hyper-specific category of unit type that doesn't want Rise Above, Blue Sky Gust, Rival Break, etc., this is the skill for them. That doesn't describe many units, but someone's probably going to want it, right? Besides that, Counter Duel is a skill that came out this month, and Thunder Spectre is also another skill that came out this month. How bad can they possibly be in less than a month? Come back to me a month later and see if the question still holds up. And of course, the main thing people care about with any emblem, the inheritable skills. Leif comes with Counter Duel. His emblem effect grants the standard special boost effect, and when enemy phasing, it grants triangle advantage against red, blue, and green units once per turn, or any number of times against units that are more than 3 spaces away, and neutralizes boost values from triangle adept advantages and disadvantages. Okay, I've definitely had my fair share of takes about units and skills before. Most of them being correct, when you ignore all the stuff I got wrong. I'm just hesitant to call this emblem effect mediocre because... Wait, no I'm not. I really don't care for this ring whatsoever. I think it's cool that it changes your color type in the enemy phase and can not only help Arc Rival, but get around it too. But I'm also wondering why I would prioritize this ring effect over Roy or Corrin. Roy gives you stats in Miracle and its special base, which amplifies survivability way more than a weapon triangle advantage. When has the weapon triangle mattered in the past few years anyway? Don't answer that. Corrin also has a nice tech option because it makes it difficult for units to swing onto you. Even in combat, you still have the benefit of Vert Terrain, which inflicts -5 attack and speed, guard, and scowl, assuming they don't attack with a style. I'd rather use those rings over Leif in many cases, but at the very least, it's not as if it'll ever be bad to use. It's still weapon triangle stuff, which can be thrown on anyone, but when was the last time a unit relied on a weapon triangle to function? Don't answer that. Funnily enough, they could use the ring well because their entire gimmick is based around the weapon triangle, but it's also one of the only use cases I could really think of at the moment. Is it a good use case? I don't know. Is it a worthwhile use case? I don't know. Just use Roy instead.
Friends, I won't abandon you.
And other than that, that sure is Emblem Leif. It's rare that they drop an emblem unit, and it makes me second guess whether they're worth going out of the way for. Definitely not helped by Choose Your Legends being close by, but Leif isn't doing anything spectacular both as a unit and an emblem. If I wanted a mixed phase infantry unit, I have Roy and Sheer Byleth. If I want a defensive ring, I have Roy and Corrin. If I want good infantry fodder, I have Roy. The lesson in all of this, just get Emblem Roy. I don't think Leif is a bad unit at all. In fact, I'm sure he'll do fine enough as a unit. I just don't think he's ever going to be a priority over other options. At the very least, he's an emblem unit, which puts him at slightly above average value on a below average value banner. And what's an end of the month banner without an end of the month banner share? Something something banner share bad, blah blah blah. Let's just rip off the band-aid here. Leif is sharing with a legendary Leon and dual Edelgard. I wasn't exactly a huge fan of Leon at first, but I was definitely way too harsh about him as a unit at the time. Even with issues of range and imbue, he could still end turns, which continues to be one of the dumbest effects in the game. Although now with the Roy ring being a thing, his one-shot potential is way lower these days, and he's more prone to losing before doing anything meaningful. But I think he's better than I gave him credit for. And on the topic of getting nerfed, you have dual Edelgard, who sure does the same thing for the 8th time in a row. You bring her to Aether Raid, Scale Force a million times, and then you're done. You cleared the team! Maybe. Iron Fighter recently came out and put a stopgap on reflex and follow-ups, both of which she relies on a lot. She's probably still fine for Aether Raid's offense clearing, but any far save with Iron Fighter that out-defenses her is going to be an issue. That said, I can't say this is a really great green share for the most part. Extra copies of Leon and Edelgard don't really contribute much beyond arena scoring, which I don't think matters that much. Leon at least has attack res unrest, which grants Canto 1 and map-wide stat swings, with the latter also stacking. Edelgard also has Armored Flare, which is a good armored special, but it's not so good that it's worth the Leif share, so you could do a lot worse for a color share. relative to this banner at least. I feel like the only remotely decent color share on this banner is red, and even then that's not perfect attack speed. That has Duo Sigurd, Emblem Corrin, and Chosen Alphonse. Duo Sigurd is more or less a modernized version of his Emblem counterpart. He doesn't have innate Gale Force but makes up for it with innate Frozen and a button that grants Gallop to allies. He also has Rival Break, which is one of the go-to cavalry A skills at the moment. Even if it's attack and defense, he's very solid overall. Emblem Corrin is also a nice addition to the red share, even if you have a copy, because Pair Up is still a really nice skill for speedy infantry. Her ring continues to be one of the best rings in the entire game, and I'd highly recommend going for her if you don't already own a copy. I'd even prioritize her over Emblem Leif in that instance. There's just no competition between the two. Unfortunately, Chosen Alphonse is bringing down the share considerably. Besides the fact that we get one for free, his fodder is incredibly outdated, so extra copies don't contribute anything beyond arena scoring, which I'm personally not a fan of. Everyone's got different priorities with the game, of course, but I don't see the value in spending more orbs on a unit than you'd make back from arena every other week. If you do care for arena though, then that definitely works in your favor. Otherwise, that does make the share a bit more iffy. But if you think that's bad, then it's only gonna get worse from here. The blue share has Fallen to Barn, Emblem Sigurd, and Lowen. Fallen to Barn is Brave Felix if he inflicted Frozen multiple times a turn, was a rearmed unit, and was surprisingly competent in combat. He was another unit I wasn't as high on initially, but was admittedly wrong about. If nothing else, he could duplicate fodder, which makes him valuable in and of itself. That's always a positive. That's also the only positive, actually. Emblem Sigurd and Lowen completely ruined the share. At the very least with Sigurd, he's an emblem unit, but additional copies aren't great at the moment. He could get a nice remix skill next year, but I wouldn't bother risking it. Especially with Lowen being here, he has absolutely nothing. He has a mediocre PRF, bad fodder, other things that are bad, something bad, blah blah blah, he's bad. This is definitely one of the weakest shares on the banner. And finally, we have the colorless share in Fallen Ivy, Claude, and Sombron. I don't know if this is better or worse than blue, honestly. Fallen Ivy is Winter, except without the thing that made Winter Ivy good in the first place. She has an easier time getting into combat than Winter, but her combat isn't all that amazing to begin with. The terrain button is what made her in the first place, and without that, you just have another throwaway 5-star. At the very least, she does have aerial detect, but that's not good enough to make up for it. Meanwhile, Claude is another Miracle Drive staff unit with Ice Lock, and that's not amazing either. Ice Lock is pretty good, all things considered, but he's not someone you have to go out of your way for to get this skill, especially since he doesn't do anything remarkable as a unit. I think he's not helping the colorless share whatsoever. And Sombron is an anima mythic that's hardly worth using over several anima options we currently have. Between Hother, Formodus, and Freyr, he's already competing between 3 arguably better options. It's hard to say if you really need someone like him whatsoever. Honestly, I think he suffers from being a defense mythic. If he was an offense mythic, even as a snare popper, he just would have been so much better. Or even getting around Corrin terrain, I think that's where they messed up with him personally. His fodder is also incredibly niche, mostly being dragon skills. Although he does have an armored special, I do think Armored Ice Cap isn't worth it over the defense-leaning one since it pairs into Iron Fighter pretty well, which is also not helping his case either. Colorless really doesn't have a lot going on for the most part. And between that and the blue shares being the way they are, red having Alphonse and Leif being the way he is, it really is the lineup of all time. For a banner that's right before Choose Your Legends, they aren't exactly making it very appealing to summon on. They could have done a lot better of a job, to be quite H. And that's about it, I guess. Yep. Okay, bye. And now that we've gone over the brand new emblem unit, I think it's time we rank the banner on the small line graph that may or may not be small at the end of the day. And would you look at that? The brand new emblem banner has earned a 2 out of 10 on the small line graph. And based on my understanding of the banner, I believe that it would be best fit somewhere around this area of the circle graph. It's lacking a lot, and I'm assuming the status of emblem is attempting to carry the entire thing. Honestly, it might, given how the Emblem Edelgard banner performed, and that banner did suck. And you may be wondering to yourself, is this the first skippable emblem unit ever? I'd say second to Edelgard, but the bar is pretty low. It's rare that an emblem unit, let alone the ring, feels skippable, but I don't think it's so good that you have to get it immediately. Leif is another mixed phase omni-tank infantry with a bunch of effects, but there's nothing particularly stand-outish about him besides the triangle advantage stuff. Even then, it's not so grandiose that it makes him more appealing than anything we've gotten recently. The ring is also not a better tanking option over Roy or even Corrin, which makes me wonder why they released it last or put an enemy phase condition on it. I think it needed a bit more, and it's also why I'm not as concerned about missing out on it currently. It'll come back sooner or later, and it may be a better time to grab it then, especially with what's currently active. The cheer banner is the best banner we have active at the moment. It has good fodder and way stronger units on there. The leaf banner is debatably worse than the engage banner as well, since that has a double red share with really good fodder and Groa, who is a broken light mythic. Granted, I think that banner is skippable too, but it's another option available. That said, the Choose Your Legends banner is coming up in a few weeks, and that's probably a lot more of a priority. If it's like previous iterations, it'll have amazing units and fodder on it, which is why I think you should hold off on Emblem Leif. Still, it depends on who he's rerunning with, because that could end up being worse, but there's no harm in waiting. It's not as if you're missing out on much anyway, TBH. 2BH. To be quite H. Well, if nothing else, it's lore accurate. Now to wait for the Thracio ring people actually want. Olin.
Magic is everything.